All right, Chris, and you're back. I don't remember what episode you were on, but it was a great episode. But that episode, I interviewed you, excuse me, and today you're kind of interviewing me a little more.
A little bit, dude.
Yeah, well, cheers, sir.
Cheers,
Thank
brother.
you for coming over. So yeah, we're going to kind of talk about, I guess, just how me and Chris are actually... I see Chris now almost every day, which is great. I'm on my OPP rotation at school, which I guess I'm kind of like TAing in a sense, like kind of helping out with labs. But we were actually saying before the show started, like, I didn't realize how much I really was depressed first and second year. And I don't mean this in a bad way, but seeing all the first and second year students just super stressed about tests, about life, and just not enjoying medical school. Because now it's third year, I really, really enjoy it. And I really think first and second year, I wouldn't have gotten through it if it wasn't for my friends, you know, including you and basketball and the podcast. Because, dude, banging all those tests out and exams is the worst.
Dude, it is so brutal. And I can't even imagine what the first years are going through right now. Like, I can't.
Yeah.
I feel like I blacked out for most of last year and have forgotten what that was like.
Yeah.
But when they go into a hell week and they have 6 exams in a row or whatever, I cannot even fathom.
Yeah.
I literally cannot even
Yeah.
imagine that right now. But still, you know, we have our systems, we have OPP, we have family med stuff every single week, and boards. We have boards coming up. I think it's like T-minus 6 months at this point, and the anxiety that comes along with that, dude, is just coming on strong right now. And like,
oh no, it's not, because it's gonna get worse,
dude. Don't say that, because I'm already feeling it right now.
You might think it's coming on strong. It is definitely not coming on strong, because it just gets progressively worse. It's not like as it gets closer you feel more comfortable about it. No, it is the most important test of your life.
Don't say
unlike
that.
the MCAT, no, it is.
I know.
And it's the $1 million test. And you could even make an argument like much more than
it's probably worth a lot more than $1 million.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the old saying. So who really knows? I mean, it really does dictate your future, as cliche as that sounds.
Yeah.
And unlike the MCAT, you can't read.
A little scary.
It's redoing it is just not a good idea. So it's get it right on the first try, do it. And yeah, dude, I'm sorry, it's gonna get worse and worse and worse. But I mean, we were saying a story before we got hopped on this air tonight. I was talking about boards with some of your colleagues this morning, and like some students were within earshot, because I'm super loud of me talking about boards, and we're like, boards. What advice do you have? What should I do? What did you do? How did it go? What do you think? And did you take both?
Yeah.
Dude. And I remember being in those exact same shoes and acting the exact same way, because I was so scared.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily think being scared is a bad thing, because it's going to motivate you to study at the end of the day.
I want to be more scared, so I'll study right now. But
yes.
But at the same time, it's like, I don't even know how to find time to board study right now.
True.
Like, it's hard enough to learn the system that we're in.
Yeah.
I feel like there's not even enough time with CILs and lectures and everything.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, I almost feel like I need to put that to the side and then just start dedicating all of my time to board studying.
Look.
And just scraping by for now. But
you're a smart guy. You don't overthink it. You put in the work, you'll figure it out. It's a simple math equation. That's how I look at it. Like, what should I do? It's like, oh, I don't know. You know, like, you got to figure out your learning style, what has worked best for you, which you've done. But you got to just put in the damn work and take practice tests, take a lot of practice questions, but also, you know, do other things and learn. But, you know, so the previous episode we were talking about is where you talked about your ADD. And you told me prior to this episode, like, I only work, even with the meds, what motivates me more than the meds to get stuff done is if I'm scared shitless.
If I am absolutely scared out of my mind, if I have like a T-minus 24 hours until test time, I could learn anything. And I could probably...
But that's just a feeling. That's not really a time thing.
But I don't know how to harness that.
Because you can't cram the boards.
That's not
a thing.
Dr. Brady might say... No, just kidding.
Maybe the little things toward the end, but... Dude, it's a 6-month, like you said, grind. So I would say sleep is super important. I meditated a lot during that period just to help with my, like, anxiety.
Do you use, like, Headspace or, like, one of the apps or something?
Yes. I am cheap, so Headspace is great, but you eventually have to pay for it.
Oh,
and,
really?
Yeah, you get, like, 10 days for free. You know, I think you can go on YouTube and there's a lot of free stuff. A lot of those apps are all really good, and they all have a free period. And when I'm older, I would gladly, I think, pay for that service. But, you know, living on zero income and loans, it's tough. But, yeah, I mean, I just think you got to... It's not that time element. It's that feeling of fear that I'm screwed. So if you can keep thinking you're screwed, it should motivate you to work. But you just can't...
It should, but at the same time, I also... You know, I'll have days where we have like 2 or 3 hours of class, and then I have the whole rest of the day off. And you know, looking at it ahead of time, I got all this time to study. I'm going to get this much done. Yeah. But somehow I like always manage to fill it in with, I end up at the gym for a couple hours. I end up hanging out with, you know, a friend for this many hours. I end up doing this or that, and it's like, and then the day's over, and I haven't gotten any board studying done. And it's like,
I mean...
I'm really good at filling up my days with, like, not studying, and I need to get out of that, and I don't know how.
Well, I am trying to get better at managing my money, but I'm terrible at budgeting. But one thing I am good at budgeting is time. And so I simply, you know, I have these big whiteboards in the room. We're not, of course, filming this podcast, but I would write down time things. And I think it's very important to schedule fun things to do. Yeah. Always.
I'm good at that. I'm not good at scheduling.
But, you know, you just have to, of course, make some compromises. And, you know, dude, you need to be scared, but at the same time, you need to tell yourself, like, I have gotten this far and I can do this. Like, it's an extremely challenging task, but it's not an impossible task.
Yeah.
It is what it is, and you know, it's if you put in the work, you can do very well, kind of thing. Yeah, you got it, dude.
Dude, I know. I just gotta stick to it. And put the fucking nose to the grindstone. Right
if you at least think of it as a mountain analogy, once you get on the other side of the mountain, third year is super, super
dude, talk about third year a little bit, because I literally have no idea what to expect.
Well,
and can't even imagine it.
You're no longer a student, you're a kind of employee is your role. Lowest on the totem pole employee, but you're an employee, kind of.
Paying to be an employee.
Yeah, I mean, you're sometimes slowing the doctor down that you're, or maybe a nurse practitioner, PAs. I've worked with both. That could be said, but normally for the most people enjoy teaching. They do think it's fun. But you're just kind of helping out a team run. You help the MAs, you help the doctors, you help write the notes, and you know you show up at most of the rotations, not all, but you show up at 7:30, 8, whatever. You're mostly done 5, 6-ish, whatever. Some are less rotations, less intense, like the one I'm on now. Some are very intense and a lot more time intensive. Mm-hmm. But it's just, I find the work balance of third year is just so much easier. You know, I've been able to spend more time on the weekends doing things that I like. I joined a golf course this year, spent more time with my wife. I've been exercising more, got a dog. It's just awesome. And it was so awesome that I did think it instigated like hypomanic episode in a sense. And so that was one of the topics that we wanted to talk about.
Yeah. So do you want to go into that a little bit more? I mean, with your, you know, your bipolar disorder. So usually with bipolar, you have manic attacks, right? You go into super high and then super low.
I've never heard the expression manic attacks, but that's, I think, a good expression. I always hear the phrase manic episode, but it is essentially an attack.
Yeah.
It's not. there's elements of it that are very fun, and then there are elements of it that are not.
That are awful, yeah. So, okay, I guess... Yeah, go ahead and talk about...
I guess, I talk about bipolar disorder episodes. Ad nauseum, I feel like. So why don't... as someone who doesn't live with bipolar disorder, but of course is very close to medicine, you haven't taken psych yet, but you understand this stuff some. What is your general understanding when I say manic episode? What is your general understanding when I say hypomanic episode?
So if I was to think of someone with bipolar disorder who has a manic episode, you go from being, you're obviously, you don't really have a baseline. You are so high up on being, happy, thinking you're the greatest thing in the world, or thinking everything is so great in your life that nothing can stop you. But on the flip of a quarter, flip of a dime, whatever you want to say, it can go just as bad. And you're not going to stop in the middle anywhere. You're going to go from being on top of the world to, I guess the analogy would be like fucking...
rock bottom.
Yeah, rock bottom. Yeah. Exactly. You're at such like a terrible place where, everyone's out to get you. You can't do anything right. Like, it would just be awful, I guess. And that's, when I think of bipolar, I guess I think of, flipping between those two states right there and not really having like any equilibrium between it and knowing where you're going to be at. And something else is kind of deciding it for you, and which I personally don't know enough about to know what's deciding that. If it's environmental factors, if it's like just a time switch inside of you or what. But then I guess there's also hypomanic attacks, which are kind of like mini manic episodes where you're not quite going off the wall, like thinking everyone's out to get you, or you're the greatest person in the world, but you're still just feeling amazing, or feeling way down in the dumps, and you're not really able to hit a balance point between that. Does that kind of sound right, I guess?
Yeah, and I think right is nebulous. I mean, who really knows exactly what a manic episode and a hypomanic episode? We don't know exactly chemically what's going on. There's very many different arguments of release of too many neurotransmitters at the time. People get put on antipsychotic medication, which is blocking dopamine receptors. Maybe that has something to do with mania. I'm currently on an anti-seizure med, so maybe that's numbing out some of the wildness that's going on there. But which
one are you on, if you don't mind?
It goes by Depakote, brand name, valproic acid.
Okay.
You're in neurology right now, it's in your unit. Yeah. So, I mean, we can nerd out later on kind of mechanism of action stuff and common side effects. But yes, so I take that med, traditionally an anti-seizure med, for bipolar disorder. So I think your explanation was straight on, but where I kind of differ is I think of mania versus sort of depression, the low side, is sometimes not necessarily happy and sad, but like super energized emotion versus lack of energy in your emotions kind of thing. And, depression is depression kind of thing. Like that it is sadness, but sometimes it's also the lack of energy to feel anything, apathetic, lack of energy to even like shower, brush your teeth a couple times a day, eat good food, like everything just seems like such an overwhelming task because the energy isn't there to do it. That's how I kind of view depression. And so for mania, for me, is this uptick of energy. And I'm bipolar disorder type 1, so I tend to side more on the mania side than the depression side. Type 2, for the most part, tends to be more on the depressive side, for the most part. That's oversimplified in a sense, but...
So as far as like a drug regimen goes then, for like those type of patients, is it a different... Would you treat each of those patients differently then?
Yes, because like you'll learn in your psychiatry section that if you give someone with bipolar disorder an antidepressant, an SSRI, an SNRI, it could hypothetically send them into a hypomanic state. So you kind of always learn, okay, SSRIs are contraindicated in bipolar disorder. In the real world, it's not that simple. There are some people that are on the more depressive side of bipolar disorder who are on antidepressants. It's as simple as that. And there's a lot of overlap here, a lot of grays. A lot of people with depression, they think they might have bipolar disorder type 2, but it's kind of hard to
differentiate that a little
exactly,
bit.
Yeah. Most people I know who are type 2 bipolar disorder were diagnosed for depression for sometimes decades. And like their regimen of medication or whatever they were doing wasn't really working. And maybe a bipolar disorder type 2 just regimen of medication is more appropriate. Some people have had success with that. Not everybody, of course. But so that's my definition of mania, is that crazy energy sensation of emotions. And sometimes it's awesome. Sometimes that's happiness or even confidence or creativity or like inspiration, all good things that you're like, oh, well, that sounds awesome. But sometimes that energy also goes into my sleep, meaning I can't sleep. Sometimes that goes into anxiety. Sometimes that can even flip then even further, and this is where I make the differentiation between mania and hypomania, is into like a psychosis, like a loss of ability to know what's actually real and what's not.
Really?
For instance, we were talking about my manic episode earlier.
Yeah.
So I was convinced I was fucking Mark Cuban next. I mean,
Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah, and it sounds hysterical, and it is kind of like I thought I was like the character from the movie, that I could get all these investors, but it was so real to me that I was calling people soliciting money, and I didn't even have an idea. I didn't even have a business. Like, it was just so stupid and ludicrous, and it's something I'm in a sense embarrassed by. But I do kind of look at it like it was out of my control in a sense, like I was sick. Yeah. But either way, I thought that idea was so great and so grand, and my confidence and inspiration was so high that that energy flipped by day 4 of not sleeping into a paranoia state where I was...
Can I stop you for 1 second?
Yeah.
And any manic episode, do most people not sleep during those?
Yes. But some people's manic episodes are just sleeping less, typically. Like, I normally sleep 7 hours a night, and I've been sleeping 4 for the past month. And some people's manic episodes are much longer than others. There's rapid cycling. There's, some people say I was manic for 4 months at a time.
What?
Yeah, this mania that I was describing was maybe a week.
Yeah.
So.
But before your, like, friends and family, right? Like... to intervene or
in the process.
Sorry
They
some
weird of course was going on, but that uptake of energy then switched into paranoia, where I thought like FBI was tracking my phone, people were following me, like I was driving around, I was afraid to go home, I thought the cops were there or something, just like not even the cops, like people that were going to steal my idea that I couldn't even describe, my business idea. It was so stupid, so ludicrous. But then, so the difference between hypomania and mania to me is that lack of psychosis. So hypomania, sometimes it can be an extremely creative period where you get a lot done and it's very awesome. And then sometimes it turns that excess energy into more like an agitation and an annoyance with the world over certain things. I had like irritation that I kind of felt, so what I wanted to talk a lot about in this episode was, so what month is it? Almost December. So this was roughly 2-3 months ago that I experienced
a hypomanic.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, that was hypomania. Now that I've lived with it for so long, like I can identify it. I've had many, but now I can really identify.
Did you know it while you were in the midst of it? Like, did you know that you were experiencing that, or did it take till it was like kind of done, you're chilled out?
No, I knew kind of during it, kind of thing.
Is there anything you can do while you're in it to stop it, or?
That's a great question. Yeah, I mean, for me, it all comes down to energy, right? I keep saying that.
Yeah.
So I keep thinking like, if during those states of hypomania, if I can really try to exercise and kick my butt, I can then get to sleep. And then if sleep, I feel like, is really always the common denominator. Like once I start losing sleep and being so busy with things, that's when kind of rails come off. And that's when I always move towards more to hypomania. At least a lot of the times. But in this sense, I almost was able to project a hypomanic state was going to come, kind of thing. Because 2 months ago, or 3 months ago, whatever, I started my psychiatry rotation. And that, was just, it was stressful in the sense that I want to go into psychiatry. So I wanted to perform really well. So I put a lot of pressure on myself. I showed up early. I stayed late. I just wanted to, put my all into it. Put a lot of pressure on myself. But also it was emotional stress, but good stress. But it was like, dude, holy fuck. Like, this is kind of starting to feel full circle. Like,
this is what I'm going to be doing. Like,
well, yeah. And it's like, dude, I was in, like, I almost want to write a book one day, like, from one side of the psych ward to the other.
Yeah.
Like, I was a patient and, like, remember being terrified. And, like, you see that in these people's faces when you walk in there. They're just like, what the, like, terrified. How did I end up in a psych ward? And, just being able to now help on the other side as, like, not a doctor, but goddamn close. And, being able to converse with the doctor and talk about treatment options with the doctor and being able to follow what they're thinking it was a very gratifying, happy feeling. And I almost remember being, like, overwhelmed with happiness, kind of tears, emotions.
Just for getting to that point.
Yes.
Dude, but
and, like, trying to hold it together.
But I feel like you should. I feel like that should be, like, a normal thing for you.
I agree.
Because, I mean, knowing your whole story and knowing, like, what, you've came from and stuff, like, you should feel that way, I feel like.
Yeah. I definitely agree. And, it was an extremely gratifying experience and something that I was proud of. And those were all good things, but, like, it still just in a sense was stressful because I just wanted to perform and do so well. Yeah. And I was having a good time. I was putting my all into it. But that kind of was just one thing that started, like, I was getting super amped, super into things, and I could feel this uptick of energy because I was just super into it. But then there was also just other things in my life that happened at the exact same time as that experience. You were part of it. We moved.
Oh, yeah.
And moving is, moving's moving. It's so much energy. You're staying, at least because I was working at the hospital, right, in the psych ward at this time. And so we were moving late at night. You helped me on the weekend. Thanks again for that. That was awesome.
Dude,
I still owe you a barbecue or something.
Sometime. We'll make it happen.
Yeah. And so doing that, getting that all sorted out, and that was, of course, there's challenges of moving, and it's so fun to move. And and then on top of that, there was 2 weddings in September that we went to. One in Portland, and then we flew out to Chicago for another wedding. Once again, both, like, all these things are good things. Like, moving was good, going to these weddings was good, it was just awesome. But, like, every one of those things is just exhausting. Yeah. And so, like, I would go to work and I just started sleeping less and less and less.
So did it get to the point where it went from being, on the happy side of the manic episode or the manic attack or whatever you want to call it? Did it then flip from that kind of, or were you just always in that upbeat energy the whole time? And did it ever flip though to the point where you were like,
well, it was
to the negative side of it, I guess?
Well, you could look at hypomania as also negative, and any mania as negative, because I just kind of had that energy, and I wasn't sleeping, and it was just, I could kind of feel it start snowballing, and, like, it would turn into, I can't sleep very much tonight because me and you were helping move things around. Yeah. And I would go to bed around midnight or 1 and be at work at like 7 or 7:30 or whatever, try to get there early. And so I wasn't sleeping. And then even on nights though where I had more opportunity to sleep, I just couldn't. Like, I would lay down and I just wouldn't be able to. And so I was very happy, very energized, and I kept that energy, but then I would just get annoyed about if someone cut me off on the road, taking flights, like, that's always kind of an annoying experience with other people, and being
that's just like the East Coast coming out of you though.
I'm a masshole through and through. And it just, I remember just getting so annoyed over little things. Like, if I dropped, like, a beer, I remember just, like, screaming in this house one time. What? Just, like, being, like, very, like, extremely irritable. Like, and like over things that were just so small, and like I could sense like, oh man, like this is literally a hypomanic episode. Like I just, and I wouldn't call it rapid cycling, but just, you know, my emotions were all over the place. Still, most of them very good, and I think I, you know, held it together in the psych ward while I was, you know, as a
third year
junior practitioner.
Yeah,
as
holy
funny
shit,
as that
dude.
sounds, because you can be hypomanic and still be functional. That's also what I want to portray about this. Like, it still was like okay, like I never got into crazy anxiety spells, crazy delusions, nothing like that. Like, it is so different, but like it was just a different than normal. Like, I wasn't sleeping. Like, I was getting more annoyed about stupid little things. Like, I just was, and maybe have you ever had this where you feel so energized and exhausted at the same time?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Like, maybe if you're too hyped up on caffeine or something, or just either way, like, do you know that feeling kind of?
Yeah. I guess the first thing that comes to mind is I've been to like country music festivals before, where it's like 3 days of nonstop partying, and you wake up every day and everyone else around you is like, oh fuck, we're so hungover.
Yeah.
But then by, 11, 12 o'clock, you're exhausted, but you're partying again, and you're going nonstop, and it's not gonna end.
And like your emotional state then is like weird, right?
It's so weird. It's like, oh man, I should like be sleeping, or I should be like passed out. But everyone else around you is in the same state, and like everyone, like that. I don't know. Those are like the weirdest things in the world to me, because you literally just party for 3 days straight, and then you're like a zombie for a week after that. And the couple times that I've been to them, I'm like, they're the most fun in the world. But then coming off of them is also like the hardest thing to do. Like, you literally have like a week hangover. So I mean, I guess in the same like sense that like we're talking right now, haven't been in the same situation, but like I guess that is like something that I could like kind of compare to it. But
I think that's actually a fantastic analogy, because everyone's been to some
sort of festival, and it is the best.
One too many sodas, and
wow, Magdalena,
producer assistant over here bringing in fries mid podcast. Very nice. So sorry, listeners, if you hear strange noises, but these fries are on point. But everyone knows that feeling. Everyone's been to a concert or like just something over the course of 3 or 4 days that's been wild and crazy, and they haven't slept. And I think that's also very analogous to mania, hypomania, because you're not sleeping very much or very well. And then on the other side of mania, there's a crash. Not always, and it's not always as deep as one another. But after this episode of Hypomania, once we finally got into this house, once I finally got onto the next rotation, I did Family Med, which I still really, really enjoyed. But at the end of the day, like, I've always been interested in psychiatry. That was, if I wanted to try the hardest at anything, that was the one, right? Finally got stuff in this house. Wedding season was over. We were able to finally chill. And it took me a solid, like, maybe month, if not even longer, to really unpack this house. Because we were just both exhausted, and, like, crashed in a sense. At that time, I wasn't able to podcast. I didn't have the energy. I was just, like, I just crashed and, like, had to reboot the engine. And that was literally my last couple months, and the kind of, like, really, I think, a good story of of hypomania. And of course everyone's experiences are different, but I hope this at least sheds some light and gets you maybe a board question right on who knows.
Let's hope so, dude.
I doubt you'll get a hypomania question, but you never know.
If I did, I'd be.
You might get a mania question. I feel like that's more likely to come up. Do you have any other
questions? I do have a question. So you've been someone who's very open about your bipolar disorder and everything throughout your life, or at least throughout last
some of my life,
8-10 years probably.
Not that long, since
6 years maybe, 5 years,
13, 6 years.
6 years. So when you're in a hypomanic attack, is Magdalena is your wife like able to see that? Does she know that is kind of what you're going through?
More now than previously, because even previously I wasn't always acutely aware.
Because I feel like if you're by yourself and you're going through that, maybe you're not able to see that as much. But
no, especially not a hypomanic state.
No, exactly. No. But like if your wife is there, maybe seeing it, seeing maybe some signs of it.
Yeah.
How does that affect, maybe keeping you out from going on to like a full-on manic episode?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Well, I still think the easiest thing to measure at the end of the day, like there's all these mooding charts, and that involves you actually having to like literally do something.
Yeah,
like put in a diary or put it in one of those apps on your smartphone. What I look at it is like sleep is an easy thing to measure. I went to bed at this time, I woke up at this time. And if I can, once I start tracking that's less and less, or like, hey, last night I was just rolling around the whole night, I wasn't sleeping well, that's easiest for me to track kind of thing. And at first when I had these things, I didn't really notice. But I think for me, if Mig starts to see it, like, it's really the irritability factor. It's like the almost the outbursts of emotions and anger and annoyance and just like those things over like little minute stupid things. Like we all have a temper, but I kind of describe my hypomania as my temper's worse when I'm in a hypomanic state.
Yeah, absolutely.
And one of my friends, my classmates, Sarah Kane, because I've talked about previous hypomanic episodes, and so I think I had one right around when I first posted the YouTube video. Mm-hmm. That still to this day, I've done all this podcasting, all these things, that has more hits, views, than all of my podcast episodes combined.
Well, dude, didn't it go viral on like CNN or something like that?
Whatever. Yeah, I mean, I don't.
Or Fox News or something.
I think
I looked it up recently when I was reading your book. Your book said something about it.
Yeah,
and so I was like, oh, maybe I should watch this before I start reading the book.
Okay. Yeah.
And then looked it up, and it was like CNN. Headline news, Logan Noone comes, is out or talking about bipolar disorder.
It was actually on Fox News.
Yeah, Fox News.
But yes, so
it's amazing though, dude. Like the whole really article about it was so cool.
I still don't exactly know how this day had ended up on that publication, but just I think like the weird Facebook of a Facebook what am I saying? But I'm just eyeing these fries and trying to speak before I dive into them. So either way,
I'll eat them all for you. Don't worry.
Either way, Facebook, like it's crazy how quick a message can actually reach people. Because when I posted that, I was maybe friends with 1,000 people, mm-hmm. but like people shared it, people commented, and whatever. Like, and you could tell it was something that people actually did care about, and there was some shock value. Like it was, I think, almost analogous to like someone coming out that they were gay suddenly. Like think about it. Like I'm out of the closet bipolar disorder.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And so people really, really shared it, or maybe had people who were bipolar in their life that they shared it with, because suddenly it went from having maybe 200 or 300 of my 1,000 friends on Facebook watching it to within a week or two it was like 30,000 or mm-hmm. something. And I still don't even know what we're at today. I wonder if it's at 50,000. That'd be kind of cool.
It's
either way, so like obviously right after that happened, like I was like, oh my god, like I was like, this is so cool. And that was kind of like the impetus for me thinking like there's something to this. Like I should need to go into mental health. I didn't even know medicine was it at that point. It's like I need to do something in this. Like clearly I'm onto something. Like this is gonna work.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like I'm doing something right. I don't know what it is, but I'm doing something in the right direction. So that was kind of the first step on this journey towards medical school, and it was an incredible feeling. Like it was, and at that time so new. Actually, months later, I met my wife. At that time of my life, I was in like extremely good shape, like great time of my life. And so all of those things were extremely good. But once again, hypomania, it turned into excess energy. I started being very creative, thinking about websites, things I could do. I tried a YouTube channel at that point, doing other videos. But then, same thing, that excess of energy started brewing into outbursts of anger mm-hmm. and outbursts of insomnia and just irritability, like we said. And at that time, I didn't know how to manage these things. And I don't even necessarily know if I knew it was a hypomanic state. But thankfully...
So when you say you're not able to manage it, does that mean you're recognizing that it's happening while it's happening? Is that kind of what you're saying, or?
I think at that stage I just described it as pure happiness and new feeling.
And so you're just riding the wave as it's coming, kind of.
That's a great way to describe it. Yeah, just kind of taking it as it's come, and because it mostly, of course, was very good. But like, I wasn't sleeping once again at that stage. But thankfully, at that stage of my life, I was still exercising quite a bit, and I think that's kind of what got me into it. Mm-hmm. And some people, when they have these hypomanic states, do need to make adjustments in medication. Maybe they need to use some kind of sleeping analytic to help out, or and maybe like a benzo or a trazodone or a Seroquel or something to help out with sleeping.
Yeah,
maybe just melatonin even something. But yeah, so that's kind of been Hypomania in 35 minutes. Yeah. Any other questions?
No, man. We covered it all, I think.
Yeah, talked a little boards, talked a little Hypomania. We'll have you on again. We'll figure it out. Moving to Portland. Excited for you?
Yeah, dude. I'm pumped. It's going to be awesome.
Maybe I can do a rotation at OHSU.
Dude, maybe we could do one together.
Maybe, yeah. They funny enough, at the psych program there, we have one of our alumni from PMWU who's went there and now a teaching faculty there.
No way.
Fingers crossed.
Dude, maybe we'll both end up there.
Portland is a great city. I mean, I'm down. But I was also today looking at some residencies. Like, I've never been to South Carolina.
Yeah.
Carolina is like, but living near the beach down there, I bet it could be cool.
It could be sick, dude.
Golfing year round. My BMW, like, would it be able to drive you around there? Not have to buy snow tires.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
It's an exciting time of our lives. Who knows where we're going to live the next 5-6 years?
Dude, that's just part of the trajectory we're on, though. Like, who knows what's going to happen? It's like, it's out of our hands at this point. I mean, to an extent.
To some extent. But if you kick your butt, you can have more options over the next 6 months. Step one is the most important test you will ever take in your life.
Dude, I know.
I'm going to try to scare you. I hope you don't sleep tonight. I hope you're just laying there like, what should I be studying? I'm just kidding.
Dude, that's most nights. Just kidding. I sleep very well.
Good.
Dude, I think I told you last time I was on the podcast how I never slept and I just crammed for tests. And
have you changed?
Dude, I have not pulled an all-nighter since like Siphon last year.
I am immensely proud of you.
Yeah.
You're maturing in front of my eyes, Chris.
Dude, yeah.
There is an age gap here. How old are you again?
I just turned 26.
Jesus.
So. Are you 30 now?
Yeah. So at 26, I think I was in my first year back at community college.
No way.
Taking the pre-med classes.
No way.
Yeah. Yeah, I must
when you went back,
second year, maybe second year.
When you went back, and you knew what you finally wanted to do, did you just kill it in all of your pre-med stuff that you were redoing?
Yes.
Was it just you were just so focused probably, and so
yes, asterisk, it was at a community college, whatever. But it just was different because I was 25 or 26 at that time, and knew what I really wanted. And there was people that were only at community college because their parents were kind of making them go, or they didn't know what to do after high school.
No, I went to community college for 2 years. I know. I thought
actually there was even high school students because there were some high school students that could take
running start.
So I remember just thinking it was funny, like people next to me, I was 10 years older and I was 26.
Dude, wild. I still feel young at 26 too. Like I
feel young at 30 and I got this disgusting stash right now. We need to take a picture. We always forget to maybe back at school tomorrow when we look more presentable, not like sweaty pieces of shit. Well, hey, dude, that's I think that's a good length. Cheers. Good episode.
Cheers, bro.
Listeners, give it 5 stars. You know you want to.